The Syrian groups have officially confirmed participation in the upcoming peace talks in Geneva, while one of the main Syrian opposition groups is again refusing to take part in the long-delayed conference scheduled in a week. Moscow's hosting, and Iranian and Syrian foreign ministers are trying to pave the way to the elusive negotiations. Paul Scott's following the fresh round of diplomacy.
The Syrian National Coordination Committee have decided that they won't attend the talks on Syria in Geneva starting next Wednesday. Now, they're not one of the most influential factions in the opposition movement, but there are hopes that there isn't a domino effect with other opposition groups deciding not to attend. Now, the makeup of the two delegations is still unclear, but one side who does want to attend but might not be there is the Iranian government. Russia believes that their influence in the region should give them a right to attend, along with another influential regional player in Saudi Arabia. Well, the foreign ministers of both Iran and Syria have been in Moscow on Thursday. They met with Russian President Vladimir Putin and also met with Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who says that successful talks are in the interest of the entire international community and that Iran has a role to play.
Like the Syrian people and the people of Iran, we want to eliminate the hotbeds of terrorism on Syria's territory. This is our unified position.
So it seems with these talks now just days away, the diplomatic wranglings have already begun.
Well, after the high-level meeting in Moscow, Iran's foreign minister talked to RT's Sophie Shevardnadze, who says Syria's future should be decided through voting and that the opposition's demands for Assad's removal as a precondition for peace talks make no sense.
It seems that there is a great deal of insecurity among those people who are setting conditions for even negotiations to start, that this should happen and that should happen. This should be the outcome of the negotiations. The other should be the outcome of the negotiations. If the people have confidence in their ability to attract the Syrian people, if they believe they represent the wishes of the Syrian population, then they should be ready to go to the ballot box. Why do they need to set preconditions? And it's not for Iran to decide. At the end of the day, no country, other than the Syrian people, can decide what will happen in Syria. And if they try to impose their wishes on the Syrian people, sooner or later, they'll see the failure of that process.
Well, on the ground in Syria, meantime, over 1,000 people have now been killed during inter-rebel fighting with radicals connected to al-Qaeda and are waging war against more moderate groups. Let's talk to Pepe Escobar, roving correspondent for Asia Times. He's on the line from London. Hi there, Pepe. This infighting among the radical, the more moderate rebels is adding another dimension to everything that's focused on these Geneva II peace talks, isn't it? It's adding another complication.
It is, because there's no sense in having Geneva II if you don't have representatives of our beheading jihadis on the table. And we know that this 30,000 or so army being more or less assembled by Bandar Bush and his acolytes all across the Middle East, these are the real actors on the ground. The Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, Jabhat al-Nusra, al-Qaeda or not al-Qaeda, CIA, al-Qaeda linked or not. These are the people who are doing the war, who are fighting the war, and who are still being weaponized. The Free Syrian Army, as we understood it until a few months ago, it doesn't exist anymore. It was controlled by Qatar. Qatar is not a player in Syria anymore. Saudi Arabia is. If Saudi Arabia would be on the table in Geneva II, Iran would have to be on the table as well. No preconditions. And nothing like this is going to happen in Geneva II. So we're going to have a talk fest, and it will have no influence on the war on the ground in the long run.
Will any of the opposition groups be there in any shape or form, any representatives to talk to the other side? Because any talk's better than no talk, surely.
Yes, of course, any talk is better than no talk. But the thing is, the opposition, the armed opposition from the beginning, number one precondition, Assad out. It never happened and it won't happen. So if Assad stays, The Syrian government is part of the talks, and the armed and the unarmed opposition should be part of the talks. This includes what we call the Paris gang, those exiles who control part of the unarmed opposition in Paris. Some of them will be in Geneva, some will not. We won't have the armed opposition in full, and this is the most important thing. So whatever you decide if you have a roadmap out of Geneva too, and it doesn't account on the real facts on the ground, which we see every day, and the expansion of the war from Syria to parts of Lebanon and across the border between Syria and Iraq, it'll be just a talk fest.
And into this melting pot as well, a lot of talk lately about whether or not Iran will be there. Iran will be there. Will it?
We still don't know. We still don't know because there's no official confirmation from the Iranian foreign ministry that they will be there. And this should have been decided weeks ago. Look, the thing is, we have more or less concrete evidence that some Revolutionary Guard units helped the Assad government, especially reconquering parts of the Hama corridor, in fact, between Damascus and Aleppo. And of course, we know that Hezbollah also helped. And Hezbollah now is guarding the Lebanese-Syrian border. So Hezbollah should be on the table. Representatives of the IRGC in Tehran should also be at the table. They are players on the ground, as much as all the weaponized different factions by Turkey, by the Jordanians, by the CIA, and especially by Bandar Bush, by the Saudis.
And a lot of you mentioned that only they won't. Well, let me pick you up on that. I mean, only today, Syria's foreign minister reportedly sent a letter to the UN Secretary General, quoting it, demanding that the countries supporting terrorist groups stop training and funding them. That's going to be up for discussion or not?
We still don't know. And even the UN, we don't have a UN mechanism that you know, we have the UN as the overarching establisher of peace in Syria. Not at all. Lakhdar Brahim and everybody else, they're just one more player among other squabbling players. It's a very sorry state of affairs because if we had the US Secretary of State John Kerry, for instance, being really forceful in having all these people controlled by the Turks, by the Saudis, and even by the Qataris, some remnants of Qatari adjuncts, let's put it this way, on the table as well. And this is what the Russians have been saying all along via Foreign Minister Lavrov. We would have a meaningful discussion. For the moment, there's no indication this will be a meaningful discussion.
You know, Pepe, as you were talking about it a minute ago, there's a great big flash of lightning over your shoulder there in central London. I hope that's not a premonition of what's to come, gloom and doom, and a meeting that maybe doesn't get anywhere. But thank you for being on the programme. Appreciate it. Pepe Escobar, their Asia Times roving correspondent. Thanks, sir.